Okay, please bear with me. It's kind of windy out today, so the wind is welcome though because it's a very hot day and it's cooling it down. But hey, Winston Frederick Sterzel. This is my response, Winston Frederick Sterzel, to your video titled, "Suddenly, thieves are everywhere in China," just everywhere. That's what you said, right, Winston Frederick Sterzel? Now, I know, Winston Frederick Sterzel, that by today, it'll have been like 3 days since you posted that video, so I'm a little bit slow getting back to you. I know that. But, Winston Frederick Sterzel, I've been having a lot of trouble with my response, and I'll explain that. Hang on. You said people making claims that they can leave their belongings or even their helmet unattended on their e-bikes in China.
Yeah, stop lying about very demonstrably disprovable facts.
Was demonstrably disprovable. That's your 2 words you used. Demonstrably disprovable. I don't even know if those words go together, but my first thoughts, Winston Frederick Sterzel, were actually, reactionary, which usually doesn't make for a good video. I waited until after 10 o'clock that night, Winston Frederick Sterzel, to go out on some back streets to film. I'm in the light here. I found packages left on e-bikes, and some e-bikes unattended, Winston Frederick Sterzel, with the keys still in them. I even found a few that were powered on. You could just actually jump on them and ride away.
So go ahead, ask a Chinese person if they think it's safe to leave something lying on the street in China. They will tell you absolutely not. Ask them if it's safe to leave something on your e-bike on the side of the road. They'll say absolutely no. Ask them if it's safe to leave the keys in your e-bike. They will say absolutely no. China is not the kind of place where you want to mess around with trust. It's a very low trust society.
Here we go, there's the keys. There's a couple of bags. There's 2 helmets, 2 for 1. Another helmet and keys. Keys are right in the ignition. If you wanted to get a police helmet, there's one right there. This guy's got his lunch there on his bike. And his helmet. Another helmet. Another helmet. Another helmet. Yeah, the keys are there. Keys are in her. And the helmet. So you can just jump on that one. And Winston Frederick Sterzel, last but not least, I'd say about 25% of the unattended e-bikes that I filmed had helmets on them. 25% at least. You guys are full of shit. Helmet, helmet, helmet.
This guy had his helmet stolen, so I just wanted to point out, he left it on his motorcycle.
Yep.
You can't just leave stuff out.
Helmet, 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 helmet. I think this might be a rental. Power is still on, so I don't know if, yeah, that's definitely a rental. I don't know if somebody's paying for that still because the power's still on. Helmet, 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 and a bag. Helmet and dinner, I think. Helmet, helmet, helmet. But according to you, Winston Frederick Sterzel, that's impossible in China, right? Oh, right, because the last time that you were in China, Winston Frederick Sterzel, very few people even used helmets on e-bikes, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Remember that? How many years ago? That's why, Winston Frederick Sterzel, you didn't see anyone leaving their helmets unattended on their e-bikes, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Nobody was using them. I collected nearly 30 minutes of night footage proving you wrong, Winston Frederick Sterzel. But, Winston Frederick Sterzel, something just didn't feel right about the video. I mean, even while I was just finished it, I didn't feel right. I couldn't figure out what it was, Winston Frederick Sterzel. It just didn't seem like a strong response to your video, Winston Frederick Sterzel. The next morning, I went back to the drawing board, Winston Frederick Sterzel. I did the regular research that I normally do, Winston Frederick Sterzel, to debunk your lies, the kind of research that you're too lazy to do. Basically, Winston Frederick Sterzel, I found that your claims are based on a bunch of old Douyin clips that you found, you just stumbled across. Typical Winston Frederick Sterzel laziness. We see it all the time in every video. Check out the dates on these videos that you used, Winston Frederick Sterzel, to claim a sudden increase in theft in China. Some of them, Winston Frederick Sterzel, had dates visible on the clips that I found, likely from security cameras. None of those dates or times were visible in your video though, Winston Frederick Sterzel. You cropped the dates out of all the clips that you used, Winston Frederick Sterzel, and the times. which to me demonstrably proves that you knew they were old clips, Winston Frederick Sterzel. And still, Winston Frederick Sterzel, you used those old clips knowingly, deceiving your followers. You did it on purpose, right? You were either too lazy, Winston Frederick Sterzel, or there were no recent clips of e-bikes being stolen. Which one was it, Winston Frederick Sterzel? You also claimed, Winston Frederick Sterzel, that because there are signs in China, there's signs on the walls, that's proof that theft is rampant.
Okay.
If theft is not a problem, Mr. Flatcap, and,
Yeah.
and
Oh, you could just leave your bags
you
out.
can just do whatever you want. It's totally fine, right? Then why are anti-theft posters all over the country?
I don't get it, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Were those signs put there recently, Winston Frederick Sterzel? I mean, you didn't provide any evidence of that the signs were just put up recently, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Maybe I need to remind you, Winston Frederick Sterzel, that there's signs in every country, everywhere you look. Not only that, Winston Frederick Sterzel, but using your logic, caution, hot beverage, means that Starbucks is a volcano, right? Caution, wet floor, if you see one of those signs. It's actually a tsunami alert, right, Winston Frederick Sterzel? You can probably look around in your own studio, Winston Frederick Sterzel, and I assume you'll find caution, do not lick the wall signs, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Those are there for your own safety, of course, Winston Frederick Sterzel. So after doing my research, I went out to find a beautiful background. Here, I'll show you a clip of it. Hey, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Suddenly, thieves are everywhere in China, right, Winston Frederick Sterzel, according to you? I mean, how the hell would you know? Why don't your followers question that? I went and made a video over there, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Of course, Winston Frederick Sterzel, in that video, I'd have to include the fact that this was the third time that you cashed in on the same deception. The first time was in your weekly show, then you posted the clip from that show onto your Clips channel, Winston Frederick Sterzel. And now, here you are once again, Winston Frederick Sterzel, this time with your same tired, dramatic background audio that you always use, Winston Frederick Sterzel. So, Winston Frederick Sterzel, your claim that suddenly thieves are everywhere in China should actually have been titled, Suddenly You've Run Out of Video Ideas. Not only that, Winston Frederick Sterzel, 2 times in your video, you urge your followers to go out and ask Chinese people if they think theft is a problem.
I mean, I'm sorry. Go and ask any Chinese person, any single Chinese person. Just go ask them, hey, are there thieves in China? Will something get stolen if I leave it outside? Just go ask them.
Doesn't that seem like something that you should have done, Winston Frederick Sterzel, instead of asking your followers to do the research for you, Winston Frederick Sterzel? Maybe next time you'll even ask them to edit the video for you, Winston Frederick Sterzel. You're getting pretty lazy. So I wrapped up my video, Winston Frederick Sterzel, at my beautiful location. I actually did 3 takes while I was there, in case I forgot anything from my research, Winston Frederick Sterzel. I spent the time to edit it, which, as you can imagine, takes several hours. But still, it didn't seem to hit home, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Something was wrong, Winston Frederick Sterzel. And I couldn't quite figure it out. Then, suddenly, last night, it came to me, Winston Frederick Sterzel. In your video, Winston Frederick Sterzel, not only did you not demonstrably disprove anything, you actually didn't lie, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Let me show you my definition of something that is demonstrably disproved, Winston Frederick Sterzel.
Stop lying about very demonstrably disprovable facts.
Remember this clip from your video, Winston Frederick Sterzel? On your weekly show, you laughed so hard, Winston Frederick Sterzel, about this clip because you enjoy it when people get injured.
I'm out of here. This is just too much. I'm getting out of here. Car pulls up.
This is my favorite video.
Dude, okay, I gotta
Hey,
play
can
that
we see
again.
that one more?
Take a closer look at the color of the e-bike at the beginning of the clip, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Now, take a look at the color of the e-bike right before he crashes, to avoid hitting the car, of course, Winston Frederick Sterzel. That is demonstrably provable not to be the same bike, Winston Frederick Sterzel, not even the same driver.
Stop lying about very disprovable, demonstrably disprovable facts.
On the contrary, Winston Frederick Sterzel, you demonstrably proved your followers are gullible. But wait a minute, Winston Frederick Sterzel. What do I mean when I say that you didn't lie? You must be asking yourself that, right? Well, Winston Frederick Sterzel, in order to be an actual lie, you need to know the truth, which you do not, Winston Frederick Sterzel. So here's an example of a lie, Winston Frederick Sterzel. She lied when she said she didn't break that vase. In that example, Winston Frederick Sterzel, she knew she broke the vase, but she said she didn't. That is an example of a lie, Winston Frederick Sterzel. In your case, Winston Frederick Sterzel, you're making a claim, but you don't know the truth. That's more of a deception than a lie, Winston Frederick Sterzel. So, here I am. I'm trying to figure out what's happening, why I can't, hit home base with this. And I'm working on debunking lies, Winston Frederick Sterzel, but you're basically making fraudulent claims to your followers, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Possibly more despicable than telling lies, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Especially, Winston Frederick Sterzel, when you're being paid with paid promotions and super chats and memberships and all that. But I see now, Winston Frederick Sterzel, that's why my first and second attempts didn't hit home. I was barking up the wrong tree, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Your knowledge of China, Winston Frederick Sterzel, is so outdated. All you have is memories to go on from years ago, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Memories which seem to be recorded on VHS, Winston Frederick Sterzel, which Winston Frederick Sterzel explains your intro and I guess your outro as well. I mean, even your aesthetic is stuck in the 90s, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Your claim of suddenly thieves are everywhere in China, Winston Frederick Sterzel, is false and nothing more than misleading your followers, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Going to your YouTube channel, Winston Frederick Sterzel, going onto your homepage, you claim to be a no-nonsense, on the street, look at China, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Yet, Winston Frederick Sterzel, you haven't left your green screen since Donald Trump was inaugurated. The first time. Your motorcycle adventures around the world and a talk show on two wheels, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Come on, that's more like Google Images adventures and a talk show with school lunch pails, Winston Frederick Sterzel, in your studio. So, Winston Frederick Sterzel, next time you want to fearmonger about China, at least put some effort into it, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Because right now, Winston Frederick Sterzel, your credibility is as missing as your original clips, of which there are none. Winston Frederick Sterzel.